Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking it out if you're new. So today with the release of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, it got me thinking. We've had a lot of requels lately. If you're unfamiliar with that term, that is the idea of a reboot slash sequel. You know, it is meant to reboot the franchise and introduce it to a new audience, but also serve as a sequel or prequel to previous entries in the franchise. And so I thought for this month's tier list, I would take and we would see how all the different requels did over the years. Obviously, I might be missing some. Let me know if I'm missing any. There are also some I haven't seen. And so let's just go to establish clearly what a requel is. Let's grab The Force Awakens here. So The Force Awakens is a requel, and we can take that in that it's a reboot. You know, it's introducing the Star Wars franchise to a new audience, but it is the start of the sequel trilogy. I also only took the first film in each like requel trilogy or series because we'd be here all day. I'd be ranking entire franchises. So we have The Force Awakens here. And I think The Force Awakens, it's an almost perfect reboot. It is incredibly similar to A New Hope, and that's on purpose. What got everyone interested in Star Wars in the first place? A New Hope. So J.J. Abrams went and said, what if I did that again? I'm going to put it in A. My personal feelings, it's S. And obviously this is all subjective. You can make your own tier list using the link in the description below. But I'm going to put The Force Awakens in A to begin with, because it does do well to reboot the franchise and reintroduce fans. You know, you've got all new characters, but you do still have the legacy characters, because the legacy characters are how you get the old fans back to see what happened with Luke, Leia, and Han. And I think it handles those characters good for the most part. There are some questionable choices. You know, this movie does suffer a bit from J.J. Abrams' mystery box storytelling, and if you're not familiar with J.J. Abrams, his mystery box is that he creates a question that might not be solved till later or might never have an answer. And that can be a little unsatisfying, especially with the route that the sequel trilogy went. So we're going to put it in A. Like, if you want to go in the opposite direction, we could grab Men in Black International right here. And this movie is bad. This is a bad requel. This is meant to reboot the franchise. It is a reboot. We follow new characters, but it does acknowledge the past like it is supposed to be a sequel. And it doesn't capture any of the charm or any of the original story. And it overall, I would say, actually hurt the Men in Black franchise. Like, where are the Men in Black now? You don't see any more Men in Black movies because this movie was bad and it bombed. Did a bad job as a requel. So you might notice there's a few different Evil Deads all over here. That's because Evil Dead has had a few requels slash reboots. Like, for example, I have the 2013 Evil Dead here. And this was originally a reboot. A cold, hard remake reboot. Not meant to be in the original universe. It's been retroactively made into a requel, where they've said, like, you know, oh, the book, the Necronomicon, can manifest itself in different forms in different places, and so this is just another story that was very similar to Ashes. And so I think I'll put it in C, in that it is an interesting look into that universe, almost like a spin-off, but there's nothing that really, like, it does have cool gore and effects, and it kind of captures that original story and improves on it in some ways, but overall is just alright. Then you have Evil Dead Rise, that is maybe a little better. I feel like it's hard to recapture what made the Evil Dead so special. This is supposed to be in the same universe. This is another kind of spin-off where it's following a new family who comes across the Necronomicon and their struggles, you know, when their mother becomes possessed by the demon. It's a pretty alright reboot. It introduces some new characters who are interesting, but none of them have the charisma or charm of, like, Ash, played by Bruce Campbell from the original franchise. So that's where you have Ash versus the Evil Dead. This is a TV show continuation. You'll notice on here there's another horror franchise that was continued in TV. It's really interesting the way they did it. And so with Ash here, Ash versus Evil Dead is a TV show that continues with the original character of Ash, brings back some different characters from the original trilogy throughout. Overall, it's its own unique story. It's a TV show. It's meant to get people, like myself, who are like, oh, what's this Evil Dead show? And then you're like, oh, it's based on this really old movie. And so then you watch all the movies, and then you watch the TV show. And I think it does a really good job of that. It keeps to the heart of the original Evil Dead, maybe a bit more than the other two reboots. The charm and the goofiness, the silliness. Evil Dead is inherently silly while also scary, and so I do think the Evil Dead TV show is a better requel than either of the other two. Now, if we just go on down the list as we were, like if I grab Blade Runner 2049, this one is probably S tier, It is, again, a requel. That reboot, you don't have to have seen the original, but it helps, and it is a sequel to that movie. But overall, if I'm going to be honest, I don't really like the original Blade Runner all that much, versus I watched this one in theaters and I really liked it. I think Denis Villeneuve doesn't miss when it comes to his writing and directing. And so I think it introduces us to a new sci-fi world. Well, new to people like me who watched this one, then went back and watched the other one. And so a really good use of a requel. And then right here we've got Chucky, which is another... Chucky I would almost put in S or A. So this is a continuation of the titular killer doll, Chucky. If you don't know, there are like a million Chucky movies now. And they finally stopped making them because they weren't turning a profit. So instead, Don Mancini continued the story in the TV show. And I love this show. It fully captures the spirit of the movies. It feels like, each season feels like each season feels like a 8-hour movie, an 8-hour Chucky movie. And so I think it does a good job of the requel. It holds the spirit of the original franchise, and plenty of people, I'm sure, have tuned into Chucky without ever even having watched all those movies. I constantly recommend it to my friends who are into horror. Check out Chucky if you haven't. And I know it looks like I'm putting everything in S tier, and that's because all the good ones are it's in alphabetical order, and all the good ones are at the front. So, like, you have Creed. Creed is a requel to the Rocky franchise, which I've never seen. And again, like I said, as the requel is supposed to do, it's supposed to reboot and continue the franchise for new fans. And that's what Creed did for me. I still haven't watched the Rocky films. I kind of want to, but the Creed movies are so good. And this first Creed establishes the character of Apollo Creed for himself. And then you do have Rocky, who is the legacy character. And their interactions are cool. It's that mentorship. It's building Creed as the new lead of the series. And I like it a lot. Then we have Dr. Sleep. I haven't seen Dr. Sleep, and I haven't seen The Shining. So that will go down in haven't seen. I couldn't tell you if it was a good requel or a good... This one's a bit more of a sequel than a requel, but you get the idea. Then we can grab Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And I'm going to put this up here with Ash versus Evil Dead. And the reason I put this so high is because this did kind of reinvigorate the Wizarding World brand, despite J.K. Rowling being a garbage person. So this is set in the Harry Potter, the Wizarding World, but it's a prequel. And so, again, it's a new set of characters for us to follow, but they do have sprinklings of stuff we know, like they mentioned Dumbledore and Grindelwald, and that becomes bigger later in the franchise, and that's why it gets worse. But with this first movie, people really liked Newt Scamander and Jake, and the other characters introduced in this movie. They liked the Beast, the Fantastic Beast. And so I do think it did a good job of rebooting the Wizarding franchise in that aspect. And people liked this one, and then they didn't like the other ones. So I think that tells you right there how it went when it comes to being a requel. I have Fuller House here, which is a requel to Full House, the classic show. I haven't seen Fuller House. I have no intention, at least as of now, of ever watching it. I'm sure fans of that original franchise enjoy it. So then we have the movie that started and made this tier list happen, Ghostbusters Afterlife. I have to admit, I'm not the biggest Ghostbusters fan, but I rewatched all of them, and then I watched Afterlife before seeing Frozen Empire. And I think Afterlife is something special. Like, I almost want to put it up there in S. I think I might boot this down, put this up, and this might be our new S tier at the moment. Ghostbusters Afterlife is an incredible love letter to the franchise, and specifically to Harold Ramis because of his unfortunate passing. I can't tell you how many kids I saw dressing up as Ghostbusters the Halloween after this movie came out. Like, it truly did reboot the franchise. You've got the kids who are now the Ghostbusters, and that gets all the kids and the teenagers interested. And you've got the original characters, and like I said, it's that love letter to Harold Ramis, and it's a really good film when you look at it from the aspect of they were dealt an incredible sad hand with the passing of Harold Ramis, and this movie probably wouldn't exist if he hadn't passed. But they took what they were given, and they actually made a Ghostbusters sequel that was worth telling versus just another studio mandated Ghostbusters film. Then we have Halloween 2018. I'm going to put this one up in A, maybe B. I'm going to put it in A for now, because despite what its sequels did, 2018 did reinvigorate the Halloween brand. This is another one of those requels that made me go watch the original. I had never seen Halloween 1988, and so I had no familiarity. Like, I was aware of Michael Myers, but I didn't know any of the story. I hadn't seen any of the Halloween movies. And so I saw the trailer for this one in front of another movie, and I was like, that actually does look kind of cool, kind of neat. And I heard the ramblings from the Halloween fans that were like, oh my god, they're going back. Because this one is a requel reboot in the sense of it erases all the previous movies, and you just pay attention to the first movie, and then this is basically Halloween 2. Halloween 1988 and Halloween 2018. And so I think it does a good job. Is it the best movie? No. But I think it definitely captures some coolness. At least for me, I feel like this is the closest you will ever get to a Halloween 1988 in modern day cinema. Then you have Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. This is a reboot of Jumanji, the older film starring Robin Williams. And this is a new generation. Now they're sucked into a video game instead of a board game. And they're played by big A-list actors. And it's a fun movie. Like, it clearly worked because the movie made a huge ton of money, made a sequel. I'm pretty sure they're working on a third one, / fourth one, I guess, technically. But this one is a tricky one here that I have here. This is Jurassic World. And I go back and forth on Jurassic World. Sometimes I'm like, I think I'm going to put it in B for now. It ventures into A, kinda, but I'm going to put it in B. It did reinvigorate the Jurassic Park, Jurassic World brand. You see every kid has a blue toy, or, you see Jurassic World toys all over the toy aisle at stores. And so it definitely brought back the franchise. It didn't exactly capture the original heart. It's very CGI heavy. But I think it is cool what they did here. You know, they let the franchise lay for a while and then they requeled it with this one after people weren't really happy with Lost World and Jurassic Park 3. And also, it's not this movie's fault, but the rest of the movies, you know, go downhill pretty fast. And so, similar to the Fantastic Beasts dilemma. Then we have a requel that you might not even realize is a requel, and that's Mad Max Fury Road. This is obviously an S tier movie. This is a reboot slash sequel to the original Mad Max movies. It's kind of a reboot. Like, I guess you don't have to say it's a sequel, but I view it as, like, you can definitely say it's a sequel if you want, so I put it on here. It's my list. I can do what I want. I don't have to justify it. But so this is a continuation of the Mad Max franchise, you know, where the world's dried up and water is a scarcity, and so they all drive the crazy killer cars. And what's there to say? This movie was nominated for, I think, just about every award possible at the Academy Awards and took home a handful of them. And it was well deserved. It's getting a sequel this year it's actually getting a prequel with Furiosa. And so clearly it did restart the Mad Max brand. It's taken quite some time to get Furiosa, but we're getting it. It's here. The Mad Max brand is here to stay. Then I have another one that's kind of a requel. This is Mission Impossible, the 1996 film. And the reason I put it here is because some people go back and forth and argue whether it's supposed to be a continuation of the original TV series Mission Impossible, because there are characters from that show that reprise their roles here. And so I think, and I mean, look at the franchise now. We're going into our 8th Mission Impossible film, and this franchise gets better with age, you know. I think this one might be the second to last, you know, one of the weaker ones. But that's not to the movie's fault. That's just like I said, they keep getting better. And so the sequel aspect to it is really weak in that you don't have to know anything. But with that, then comes the reboot aspect of it's really strong that you can watch this movie and know nothing. And overall, it is an actually good, well-made movie, in my opinion. And so it's definitely a classic, at least. So I'm going to put it up in A tier. Then we have Prometheus, and I'm going to put Prometheus down in C. Might even venture down into D now. We'll put it up in C. And so Prometheus, this is the Alien prequel. This is, again, meant to bring back the Alien franchise. It started... Were there 2 of them? I think there were just 2. This one and Covenant, right? And then they didn't get the 3rd one because Covenant was so bad. But yeah, this was the prequel to the Alien franchise, and honestly, we didn't need this, and I think the general reception to the movie is the same. It didn't really spark that interest in Alien anymore, you know. I watched the original 3 Alien films, and then I watched this one, and I was like, wow, I really feel like I wasted my time there. Like, I did not like this film. I think really it could have been its own thing, that truly it's only an Alien film by name. You know, there's nothing really about it that gets you, woo, Alien, let's go. Versus you have Scream 5. This one is another one where my personal feelings, I would say S tier, but I think I'm going to put it in A. I'll put it in A for now. So, Scream 5 is the revitalization of the Scream franchise after the last how many years? You know, it's the first film after Wes Craven's passing. And this is the film that Scream 4 was kind of a requel, but it also still stuck with our original trio of Sidney, Gale, and Dewey. Versus this one is fully a new cast of characters, and Gale, Sidney, and Dewey are now legacy characters. You know, they're in the background, similar to The Force Awakens, where they're guiding this next generation. I like this movie for the legacy aspects of it. Standing alone, not by itself, I don't know if it's necessarily the greatest. You know, it's very much a product of its time. The killer's motivation is very like 2020, so to say. It's very relevant to modern times and the internet. And so I think I'm going to put it in A for now. Of I could see Scream 5 not aging the greatest in later years. And then you got Space Jam, A New Legacy. This one's going down in D tier with Men in Black. What's there to say? The original Space Jam didn't need a reboot or a requel. This is supposed to be a requel in that the first one did happen. The Looney Tunes acknowledged that. So yeah, it's the same thing as the first one. LeBron James gets sucked into the video game and now he's got to play basketball with the Looney Tunes. And it's full of unfunny jokes. Like I think anything, this killed the Space Jam brand. I don't think anybody wants to watch either Space Jam movie after this. And this one is Terminator Dark Fate. This is an interesting one for me, because if you know me personally, you might know that Terminator 2 is one of my favorite movies of all time. I really love that film. James Cameron did something special with the crazy VFX of the time, cool action, just overall a great film. Dark Fate is supposed to be a continuation from Terminator 2. So you're supposed to, it's kind of like the Halloween requel, where you ignore all the other ones and you watch 1, 2, and then Dark Fate. And Dark Fate, I go between B and C. Like, I don't hate this film. I think it's maybe a little inaccessible. Like, it failed at the box office. It was a box office bomb. And I think that is just because, it requires the homework of watching the first 2 movies, and it's not the greatest film. And it does make sense. I'm going to put it in B because I think I like it more than these. Or maybe I'll put it in C at the top. But I don't know. We'll put it here for now. But yeah, when it comes to the reboot aspects, it failed to gain new interest in the franchise. And I think there are some narrative decisions it did that actually scared away legacy fans. It's an okay movie that has some interesting aspects to it, but overall, a middle of the road requel. And then you've got Matrix Resurrections. Why do all the Matrix movies have the same name? You've got the Matrix, and then it's Reloaded, then Revolution, then Resurrection. Why do they have such similar names? Anyways, I think this one goes in D tier because this was another one similar to Dark Fate. It bombed. Nobody saw this movie. This did have interesting elements. I could have seen it work. Like, for example, they recast some characters because you're in the Matrix. You're in this video game-esque world, so to say. And so they recast some characters with new actors, saying that, the Matrix was rebooted, the Matrix was restarted, and so they look different now. And so I might put it up in C. Like, I don't think it's not very good. Like, I don't know if I'd ever... Like, these 2, I don't think I'll ever watch again. I'll maybe, if I put on the Matrixes ever again, I'll watch the Matrix Resurrections at least. So let's see. Now we've got, this is Top Gun Maverick. This is one of my favorite movies of the last couple of years. I think I have to put it up in S tier because, again, we're getting another Top Gun. They've greenlit a sequel to this film. And who would have thought we'd be getting a third Top Gun, let alone this second one here. And so Top Gun Maverick really did revitalize the franchise. There are some legacy characters, but overall it's just Tom Cruise. And then it's a whole new cast of characters. And this movie lives by the rule of cool. It looks great, sounds great. The effects are awesome. And so it got people excited for Top Gun again. Like I said before, I am susceptible to these requels. I go back, and because of this, I went and watched the original Top Gun. I don't really like the original Top Gun, but I love this movie, and it's revitalized the franchise. We're getting another Top Gun at some point. An awesome requel that respects the source material, constantly refers back to that first movie, but doesn't require you to know it. You know, there's plenty of things within the film itself to give you those context clues. And so, a great requel. And last but not least, I have one that maybe shouldn't be on this list, but it is. This is X-Men First Class. I put this here because this is a prequel to the original X-Men trilogy. I know they get crazy timey-wimey, but at the time of this was billed as a prequel to the original X-Men trilogy. And so, this was a pretty good reboot to the franchise. I think people were confused at the time that it came out, but I think it does do a really good job of going in depth. You know, I think more people gravitate towards the James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender versions of Magneto and Professor X than they might the originals. And so I think this does a good job. This rebooted the X-Men franchise. We got 4 with this cast. You know, again, say what you will about the quality of those as they went on. But at least for this one, it definitely revitalized the franchise and gave it a new breath in life. Alright, so if we go through and move these around, it's a little hard because moving these around is my own personal taste. Like, it's been a while since I've seen Blade Runner. I know it's good, so that probably move it. I think S tier looks something like that there, you know. Creed might be the best one. It really got people into that franchise that was done and over for so long. And then same with Top Gun and Mad Max. Ghostbusters captures the heart of that original franchise. Star Wars brought the franchise back. It's a fun movie. And then Blade Runner 2049 again brought that franchise back and is a really good movie. Then if we look at A tier here, A tier probably looks something like this. Again, these are pretty much my own personal feelings of I think X-Men did it best out of these 5, and then they just continue to, I don't know, maybe more like that. Halloween did really revitalize that franchise. That movie made a butt ton of money. Even though, like, Mission Impossible is arguably a better movie, these continue to grow with each franchise versus this one kicked the door down right at the start. Then if we look at B tier, yeah, B tier probably looks something like this. So you've got Jurassic World at the start because it did bring that franchise back. Like I said, all the kids love the dinosaurs. The kids love these movies. This brought back the Wizarding World despite J.K. Rowling being a TERF. Jumanji is back, and these are fun movies that people go see when they come out. And then this one respected the source material, and then Terminator was a fun revisit of that universe, but failed to start the new trilogy they had planned. Then if we look at C tier probably just looks like this. You've got the Evil Dead spin-offs that, you know, got some interest, but didn't quite capture it, like Ash vs. the Evil Dead. And then Prometheus, I'd maybe put Prometheus under Matrix, I don't know. Both of these are pretty interchangeable in that they have interesting concepts, but overall failed to garner interest or failed to capture what was special about those original films. And then, yeah, D tier looks like this, where Men in Black is at least something new versus Space Jam is just, what if we did the first movie again but worse? And nobody had any interest in either of these movies besides to make fun of Space Jam. And then I still have yet to see Dr. Sleep or Fuller House. Probably won't ever see Fuller House. I want to watch The Shining and Dr. Sleep. That is my requels tier list. Again, there are probably some I've missed. You'll have to let me know in the comments below if I did. Let me know what you think of the kind of requel wave we're in right now, where we keep getting reboots of franchises and sequels. You know, we keep bringing back the legacy characters. And some of them are tired and boring, and some of them are really fun reintroductions to the franchise. So let me know in the comments below what you think of requels. As always, if you like what you saw here and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know when the next one's coming. I'm a big nerd. I talk about stuff like this all the time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.